I'm Norman Liss, and the name of the program is The Way to Go. I invite you to join me each week at this time as we explore various things to do to make your life more interesting and to provide you with information that you can use. A little later on in the program, we will be doing our regular feature, which is called Previews and Reviews, and talk about some of the things that are happening. But at this point, I think that I should tell you that we're going to go into a subject that is of vast interest to me, and that is the adaptive use of some of the great homes of Westchester. They're all around us, strangely enough. There's the Axe Castle in Tarrytown, which is a castle way up on top of the hill, can be seen from the Tappan Zee Bridge, and has been used as offices and is now being converted into a number of small rooms where people can stay in a restaurant. There's the Rye Golf Course, which was originally the Whitby Mansion, and there's Tappan Hill, which was on property that was owned by Mark Twain. But today we're focusing on something very, very specific and get into the history and get into the use and get into the appeal. And what I'm talking about today is Tarrytown House. And I'm glad to say that we have with us today two people who are very, very deeply involved. Mark DePiero is the general manager, and also Jeff Weggeman, who is the marketing person. And I'm glad that you both could come here. And so let's get right into this whole subject. What is it about these glorious old homes that make them so great for people to use for these purposes? Not as museums, but as places to be used. What is it? What's the appeal?
Well, I think you touched on it when you said the fact that it's not a museum and it is a place that's tangible. You don't walk through these beautiful homes or mansions and have to stand in a certain place and you're roped off and you've got to not touch anything. You have an opportunity to get out and use it. You're
actually almost living the life of the people who live there,
exactly.
I suppose.
Exactly.
They certainly don't build homes like this anymore. No. Tarrytown House is, we'll get into some of the details of it to get a feeling of what it is that makes the appeal so great of something like that. But what is it? What is it about these homes? They built them in a way that is not being done today.
Right. I think a lot has to be said about the ambiance when you're on the estate. It's not only just the home, but it's the surroundings. I know every day when I'm there, as I walk the grounds, I stop and think, I wonder what happened here 100 years ago or 200 years ago.
Yes.
And there's incredible history all over the
So let's talk about that, because part of the appeal is what happened 100 years ago and 200 years ago. Let's go back to the beginnings. What is it that made Tarrytown House? How did it evolve and where did it start?
Well, it was it's had many owners over the years, and it started off with the Harris family, which owned. The Biddle House was called Linden Court. And in the gate, there's a sign that says Linden Court, which is what they called it because of all the linden trees.
And that's reflected, as I see it, in the Tarrytown House logo, which shows a linden tree. So you've kept that history going. So they had this house built. Is that what it is, the Harris family?
Right, in the late 1800s it was built, and that was tobacco wealth.
It was called Gray Court.
It was called Gray Court at that time. And the whole estate now really consists of two separate estates. The King House, which is also an historical mansion, is done in the Greek Revival sort of motif, and that was owned by Mr. King, who was an executive at the B&O Railroad. So they
were neighbors, really.
That's right.
The Kings and the Harrises?
That's right. And they actually had siblings that ended up marrying.
Really?
At one time or another, yes.
Married the kid next door.
And it's funny because if when you read through the history of the property, it's amazing how the two buildings are really intertwined, and it's great to know that obviously they're both together now on the same properties.
Yeah.
Jeff was talking, when you talk about things that happened in the past, for a month I heard about this safe. They said, well, it's in the safe. When I said, well, where is the safe? Well, it's underneath the King House. So just last week I went to find the safe. And what it actually was a large 6-foot steel door in the basement of the King House. And I walked in, and there were walls that were about 3 feet thick that I guess they stored their treasures back.
It's like a walk-in vault. Is
That's
that
right.
Walk-in vault. It was very interesting.
What's it used for today, or shouldn't I ask that question?
We stored chocolates down there because it's nice and
It's a house secret.
Chocolate, well, that's precious. That's certainly precious today. You touched on the fact that you heard about it. You're new as general manager, and Dulce International, which is the new owner, is new. And let's talk a little
Dulce
bit about...
International is a management company for Tarrytown House, and we're new on the scene as of December 1st.
Uh-huh.
And we're a conference center company which manage conference centers in Texas, Connecticut, France,
New Jersey.
New Jersey, and Toronto, Ontario, in Canada.
And so, but we know that Tarrytown House was not always a conference center. So how did it come from the Kings and the Harrises to evolve into a conference center? Let's go back a little bit in history and then come up to the present.
Okay. There's a gentleman named Bob Schwartz who has a long history in New York. He he wrote for New Age magazine back in the 50s. He worked with I think Time magazine.
That's right, New York Magazine.
New York Magazine. He had this concept of bringing executives together in a place where they can meet and talk about how to expand their businesses or control their businesses or what to do. Something that was strictly for these particular meetings.
Now, this had never been done before. Was this the first conference center?
Yes, Tarrytown House is the first executive for-profit conference center. And what and a part of the history that we haven't talked about yet was that after the Harrises had it, in 1921, Mary Duke Biddle and the Biddle fortune and the Biddle family had it. And they were obviously tobacco money. And a lot of the immediate history we talk about in the lore of the property is obviously the Biddle Mansion and the Biddle House.
Right.
And then she died in 1960. And then that's when it was actually sold to the Republic of Mali, which was an African nation, and that was done for heads of state, and they had big lavish parties, and that folded. And then in 1963 is when Mr. Schwartz had it, and he was really a New York intellectual who had tons of connections in the corporate world and in the media world, and he really wanted to create a think tank, so to speak, for all these different venues to come there and to eat and to meet and have every bit of every one of your needs taken care of, from sleeping to the food and to the cocktail receptions and the parties, and therein lie the 30-year history of Tarrytown House as a conference center and as the nation's.
So that's the concept. That's the concept. It's not just a hotel. It's not just a catering hall. It's more than that. It's a complete entity.
It deals with culture. It deals with education. It deals with new ideas. There was a letter that there was a group called the Tarrytown 100, and they put out a letter called the Tarrytown Letter, which had a subscription to a large population in New York and throughout the United States, actually. And the Tarrytown Letter dealt with subjects that were current in the business world and talked about, they had a computer school at Tarrytown that they had a series of weekends when computers were just coming out in the 60s, where they would train people on computers. They had an entrepreneurial school where they taught people how to be entrepreneurs in the New York area, and they did series programs for this. And they were well attended, and they were the Peter Druckers and the different thinking people at the times were.
I always know that Judith Christ would run her film weekends. Are those still going on? I know that's
Absolutely.
And
we have one coming up on March 19th, actually.
That's right.
I remember her when she was with are you ready? The New York Herald Tribune, and so she goes back a long way, and I know that those weekends have always been tremendously attractive. Getting a little bit to the fact that it's not strictly a business use today. There's a social use as well. Is that an evolution, or how did that happen?
Well, the onset of your question too was how do you use the property and what are the adoptive uses, and it's not just a conference center. It's a lot of what we do, but I mean, we do weekend retreats, we do a lot of weddings, and we do a lot of film festivals, and And the fact that it is so versatile and there's so much to do and there's so many different people over time that have come there, they have different interests. Some people have interests in movies, and Bob Schwartz and Judith Christ really hit it off well. And the film festival weekends are a great opportunity for people to see previews and to talk about the film and the film intellectuals to get together, and the stars that have been there over the years, like from Gregory Peck to Woody Allen, to Paul Newman. It's just amazing. Raquel Welch, yeah.
Now, we talked about why these homes are used for these purposes. We talked about not only the buildings themselves, and maybe we'll get into a little more of that, but we also talked about the setting, the landscaping, and everything that goes with it. So as in my experience, because I've been there many times, you come through these gates and you drive up this long curving driveway, and then you get this tremendous view of this house sitting there, the Biddle House. As a matter of fact, I have a brochure here, which I think would be very interesting to see what that view looks like. And it certainly presents, from wherever you are, it certainly presents from the driveway a view of, what do you call this building?
That's the Biddle Mansion, or the Biddle House.
The Biddle House. Yeah. And the view from the outside is great. The view from the inside is great as well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the setting. That sets the tone right there. And then you drive up, and the driveway takes you right into the porte cochere, is it? Right?
That's right.
Yes.
In the entrance of the building. And describe the building a little bit.
Well, it's a huge stone mansion, and it was actually the centerpiece of the house. And you walk in, and maybe you can help me with this, Mark. You have gorgeous fireplaces in every room. You've got an original drawing room.
And the rooms are off to each side, and the dining room is in the center.
Several small rooms, and there's a sun porch that's enclosed that overlooks the Hudson. And the great lawns. Actually, Mary Duke Biddle was an avid golfer way back then, and there's a tee box that she had built, and it still exists, where she used to tee off
the mound
daily.
Yeah.
And after she built her swimming pool, and she loved the sports.
We'll get back to a tour, so to speak, of Tarrytown House in a few minutes. But at this point, as is our practice, I'd like to go into a section of the program that's called Previews and Reviews. And I want to tell you about some things that are happening and have been happening in this area. This time is known as Cabaret Month, and as regular viewers know, I'm a great fan of cabaret. And this has been a most interesting week to talk about the cabaret. There was an article written in the New York Daily News about a year ago, and it was called Boys' Night Out. It was written by Weggeman, who covers cabaret for the Daily News. And in his article, he said that the male performers really don't have the showcase as the female performers. As a matter of fact, it quoted one of the people as saying that there's a glass ceiling, which we hear so much about in the business world for women. There's a glass ceiling for men in cabaret because there aren't many of the big presentation rooms that will book men into it, as opposed to all these star female performers. So the 92nd Street Y had a program called Boys' Night Out, in which four performers actually were featured, and they are outstanding. And I was fortunate to attend that, and it really gave a marvelous showcase for these performers. They were Tom Anderson and Philip. Jeff Harmer and Philip Officer and David Stoller. Quite a night. The next day, by the way, Lyrics and Lyricists, which is at the 92nd Street Y and has been there for many, many years, had a marvelous performance. That only runs 4 performances of each of the shows. Now, continuing in cabaret, there is an annual event that is really marvelous, and that is called the Bistro Awards, which are presented to outstanding people in the cabaret field, and it is sponsored by a magazine or newspaper actually called Backstage, which really is, I suppose, the Bible of the cabaret field. Sherry Eaker, who is the editor of Backstage, has been on this program, and she hosted this evening, which had more than 20 performers who received awards and presented a bit of their acts. It was a great gala evening. It was tremendous. It was in Midtown New York, and Cabaret, I'm happy to say, is very much alive and well and thriving in this area, probably better than anywhere else in the country. The thing about Cabaret that I like is that it's so intimate, and the performers have an opportunity to put on their act as opposed to appearing in a show and doing someone else's work. So it's quite interesting. And finally, I want to talk to you about a performer who I recently saw at the Palace Theater in Stamford, and that is Mel Torme. Mel Torme has been in show business for 60 years. He's appealed to generations of people. He loves the big band sound, and the things that he did on his program included a tribute to Benny Goodman, his great scat singing with the music of J.S. Bach, and a version of a song from New Moon, which I have to tell you, Nelson Eddy and Jeanette MacDonald never sang it that way. This is a great place, Stamford Center for the Performing Arts, and if you want more information about the things that are coming up, they've had Bill Cosby, Pat Metheny is coming up, Neil Sedaka, and many classical, many types of performance, a lot of pre-Broadway, and the number to call for them is 203-325-4466. And now I'd like to get back to our discussion of the adaptive uses of homes, and my guests today, who are from Tarrytown House, and it's Mark DePiero and Jeff Weggeman. And we've come up the driveway, we've seen this magnificent house, we've talked a little bit about the King House, and I do want to talk about this mansion, this stately mansion with its wonderful rooms. This was the next door neighbor, I suppose.
That's right.
Yes.
Of the Biddle House. And let's talk about it. What's its charm?
Well, now it has 10 sleeping rooms, and they're all period rooms. Each is decorated a little bit differently, and they're all a little bit different shapes because when they built buildings back in the early 1800s, it wasn't always square and perfect.
Yes.
It does have 4 magnificent rooms on the bottom. One is a butler's room and a grand salon, which is all beautiful wooden floors and wonderful fireplaces. And then there's a wonderful library that's wood paneling throughout and a wood-carved fireplace.
And they're used for what today?
They're for meeting rooms.
They're meeting rooms. But you also serve the dinner there.
Dinners in there. We've done weddings in there. We've done bar mitzvahs in there. We do. I mean, again, the uses are many.
Now, there are other buildings on the property.
Yeah, there's a total of 6 buildings. There is a stone house there, which was actually built in the 1870s, also by a separate family. Again, on the site, so there was 3 separate owners at one time. And then there's a health club, and that's connected to some guest room corridors that were added in the 1980s.
Yes.
But just to go back to an interesting point about the King House is that originally when it was built, it was called Irving's Alp. It was called that because Washington Irving used to come up there and sit there, and that's the site he used to use to look over the Hudson River and hopefully get inspired for some of his great stories. So.
Yeah, now that you've come back, this is the King House or the Biddle House?
That's right. That's the King House.
King House. The Biddle House has something, and I've attended a wedding there, and I know that not only is that main floor great, but there's a little secret downstairs too that guests use. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
That's the pub you're referring to, and down in the pub we've got 2 pool tables, we've got some darts, and then we have, unbeknownst to most people who go down there, a bowling alley, which was actually built by Mary Duke Biddle herself. And in that day and age, you would play tennis, you get tennis courts built, you play golf, or you would you go bowling. And there is a bowling alley down there, and it's just terrific to see the look on people's face when they come down there and they say, "My Lord, you have bowling."
So, and I suppose if you would put on a costume and dress yourself in that period, you would feel as if you were actually living there, because here you have a private bowling alley in your home, or your home for the day or for the evening, I suppose, if it comes down to that. How many rooms are there altogether available in the property?
There's 148 sleeping rooms,
Uh-huh.
and we have 33 conference rooms, or most are conference rooms, and some are mixed use for both weddings and bar mitzvahs.
But you've just built an addition, haven't you?
Yes, it's the new ballroom, and we can do weddings of up to 350 people.
Now, obviously, if you built that, there is a big need for it. I know that there are many things that are going on. People are always looking for sites to do things, and if you have the business, I suppose, the fact is that you need the facilities to
Yes.
you can't cram everybody into one room on one day, and there are certain days that more than one person wants a certain room. I suppose it comes. So how does a new room evolve? Is it you certainly want to keep it in character of the property itself, and so how does it evolve? I mean, how do you determine how big it's going to be and where it's located? And it seems like an enormously large enterprise for someone to take on.
Particularly when you're dealing with an historical site. I mean, there's a lot of detail that goes into it. I mean, as you said before, there's a lot of nice, beautiful castles and mansions around. So when the business is there over the years, which it has been, obviously, like you said, you expand your business base, and all of a sudden there's a new need, and there's an additional need for weddings or for meetings. And so you have to design it so it's in the same flavor as the building. You need to get architects in, landscape architects, so it fits, and it's amazing all the different details that need to be covered.
You mentioned the fact that it's a historic site. Of course, it's one of the few places, certainly the only one in this immediate area, that's listed in the historic hotels of America.
That's right.
And Mohonk is in that
That's
too.
right.
You
That's
know.
correct.
But nothing in this area, and I suppose that is something to bear with pride, but it's also something that you have to constantly be conscious of in everything that you do.
Mm-hmm.
You have to try and maintain the colors of the period and the furniture of the period and the patterns. If sometimes you can't find the patterns that they had, you have to have them made actually and printed for your beds.
Uh-huh. There's so much information, and we can only cover so much of it in this time. So what I do want to do is to give people an opportunity to have a number that they can call for further information. So why don't we tell people what the telephone number at Tarrytown House is?
Jeff?
914-591-8200.
Okay, and we'll put that up on the screen at the end of the program in our closing credits, so people can write it down and get a brochure or get other information that they need for it. I think I'd like to talk a little bit right now about, for those people who are planning to have an event, whether it be a business event, are there certainly certain do's and don'ts that we can put right up there, up close for people that they could think about?
Oh yeah, it's being a conference center. One of the reasons why conference centers are around is because there are do's and don'ts, and we really step you through from A to Z on what those do's and don'ts are. And the do's and don'ts are, obviously, don't wait too long before you decide to find a place to do it. That's one of the first do's, and then
plan far ahead.
That's right, and obviously we're in an area that's busy, and and the economy's getting better. So obviously think ahead and plan ahead, and know what you want beforehand. You know, have a good idea of what kind of space you need, what kind of dining you want to do, who the people are that are going to be coming to your event, be it a wedding or be it a conference or be it a reception or a holiday party, and then a lot of the other do's and don'ts really come from us. We really like to lead you through that and to determine your needs best as you expect them, and to offer suggestions and ideas on how to make the event a success.
We have professionals in our organization that will take you from the initial inquiry through the rooming list for meetings, through selecting the dinners and how the coffee breaks are going to happen, and best timing for your meetings, and from their experience, what works well for different particular groups.
You have two types of people, really. You have the professionals, the meeting planners, the facilitators who do this all the time, and they know, of course they don't know unless they've been there before, they don't know your facility. And then you have people who are doing social events who've never done this before, and of course their major problem is that it should look great for the guests.
Yeah, we also have another department, our catering department, which will walk someone through and be there with them through their event to make sure that they're comfortable, and the rest of the staff takes care of it.
I think that's essential, that people need guidance in all of the. I don't care how much experience you have. I'm a great believer in checklists,
Right, sure.
and I know that without a checklist, things can go astray. There's no
Absolutely.
problem with that.
Yes.
There tend to be a lot of clients that will know what they want, and that's great. But there's always the market professionalism is to enhance that and to add to that, and that's the staff with the conference management staff and the catering staff to do that.
And again, unless people know the facility itself, they may know how to do an event, but they don't know where all the nooks and crannies are, and they don't know how to take advantage of some of the rooms and where to set up for this and where to set up for that, and the size of the room for the number of people.
Yes.
The worst thing that can happen is to have too many people in the wrong space.
Oh yeah.
Well, one of the problems that we have is not having enough time to continue, and we have run out of time. And I thank you for your enlightening us on the subject of these wonderful homes and how they're being used.
Thank you.
My guests today have been Mark DePiero and Jeff Weggeman of Tarrytown House, and we've talked about adaptive use of houses, and particularly about Tarrytown House. Look at these houses. Look at the houses in the area. Use them. They're there for your use. And I'm Norman Liss, and the name of the program is The Way to Go. And until next week at this time, enjoy yourself.